Ishmin Tuhis, Kanyon CoyoteWoman Sayers Roods. Good day. My name is Kanyon CoyoteWoman, and I come from Indian Canyon Nation. Indian Canyon is about 15 miles south of Hollister. You're loud. Excuse me. Sorry. Vehicles. There's too many of them. 15 miles south of Hollister is my ancestral homeland. I am very blessed and privileged. I try to put those together. I am very blessed and privileged to say that I've been raised on the land of my ancestors, where my grandmother's grandmothers have always come from. My mother, Anne Marie Sayers, has always taught me that when song, ceremony, and dancing stops, so does the earth. I too believe that. And coming from an Indigenous community, it's always respectful to acknowledge Indigenous protocol. Indigenous protocol is a way that Indigenous peoples recognize truth in history of these spaces and places in today's post-colonial settler environment. What does that mean? Well, like you have family members who own property and have a house. Do people walk right into your kitchen and take your cup of sugar? Or do they do something? They kind of go to the door, right? And they knock on the door. That's a protocol in respecting property and ownership. Native peoples have always had protocols as well, where we acknowledge that if we're not on the land of our ancestors, where our ancestors have always been, then we seek permission to be there, and we acknowledge where it is. Because today we are many nations. I am of many lineages, many families, many territories. But wherever I go, wherever I travel, I acknowledge the land that I'm on. So I'd like to ask you to repeat after me. Can I hear you say awaswas? Awaswas. That is the first language of this land. Before Santa Cruz was known as Santa Cruz, before English was spoken here, before Spanish was spoken here, awaswas was the first language of this territory. And I have educational resources and book recommendations that any of the family or the young ones are interested in, so we can talk about that later. But by acknowledging these first words, we're honoring truth and history. And as I mentioned, I come from a matrilineal society, and our community, when song, ceremony, and dancing stops, the earth will stop. So here we are, gathered in a circle, gathered in community, and we're acknowledging Indigenous protocol. And I'm grounding myself in a ceremony by saying, I want to offer a song to this circle, to offer a song to our grandmothers, to honor our grandmothers, their grandmothers, and in all Mother Earth. For without them and without her, we would not be here. We share this time and space together for a reason, so it's with that humility, that gratitude, that present-mindedness that I offer this song in this space. I identify as a Mutsun Ohlone California native individual, and this is an intertribal song that a traditional grandmother song was taught to me. This song is a grandmother song that is meant to be shared with the community. It's always respectful to know where your songs come from. This song came to me, and it is meant to be shared intercommunally and consensually to be recorded. It's always good to always ask. I totally consented ahead of time. I knew I was going to be recorded. Don't assume because you're in a public place that you can just take pictures of natives and ceremonies. Let's ask for permission, right? Permission and consent is really good. Okay, I just want to let that out there. So this is Kanyon's grandmother song, and it's to honor our grandmothers, because without them, we wouldn't be here, right? So this is Kanyon's grandmother song. Moim hoi o kawana, moim hoi o ka, moim hoi no ho, moim hoi o ko, moim hoi o ne o konale, moim hoi o konale, moim hoi o kawana. Moim hoi no ho, moim hoi o ko, moim hoi o ne o konale, moim hoi o konale, moim hoi o kawan o, moim hoi o ko, moim hoi no ho, moim hoi o ko. Moim hoi o ne o konale, moim hoi o konale. no son, and oh, oh. Can I hear y'all say, oh? Oh. Nice. In our community, we don't clap, because sometimes clapping, it'll dissipate the energies, and it'll be just like a clapper stick, kind of loud and jarring. Our community, we say, oh, whenever our dancers come into the circle and to dance. We say, oh, when our dancers are leaving. When an elder offers a prayer, at the end of it, we'll say, oh. So if you ever meet any California Native peoples, if you ever go to any rallies or gatherings, you might hear that. And you're welcome to say that in solidarity, because like, you're like, oh, wait, it's not time to clap. I'm not sure how to express. Okay, so like, oh, it's a good way. Intertribally of other nations, especially Dene territory, more desert people, they will say aho. Or Lakota people, they will say, it's leaving me, mitakwe oyasin, which means to all my relations. I don't speak the Lakota language, therefore my vernacular makes it sound like I'm sounding it out. And I know my people's language, and my relatives have taught me different words, and I attempt to be respectful in their circles, kind of do what the community does. So being raised in both a traditional and intertribal environment, I've learned how to navigate some of these circles, and dominantly it's just pay attention and listen, observe twice as much as you speak, listen twice as much as you speak, be humble and just be present. So as a California Indigenous person, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your considerations. Thank you for joining in circle and acknowledging truth and history, acknowledging Indigenous protocol. It's so very important that when we walk in this world, how is it that we're honoring truth and history? How did we all come to be here in this circle? How did this building come to be here? How did this land come to be the way it is? Let's ask these questions. Sometimes there's some painful truths. Sometimes there's some painful occurrences, but it's important that we talk about it and we learn about it. I'm not a native who's going to be like mad at the world saying it's horrible how things came to be. I'm very sad at some of the educational institutions that don't offer inclusive storytelling and teaching of these truths. So I'm Coyote. My native name is Coyote Woman, and our community, we see Coyote as a trickster. So I use sarcasm and humor, and I'm playful and I'm loud, and so that's my personality. It's not everybody's type, and it's okay if not everybody enjoys this personality within me. I will be the educator and the being that I am, and I will do what I do. So I appreciate you, and I thank you for acknowledging truth and history. And I'm here to offer stories. I'm here to offer ways of actually making mini zines. So I've taught a few people how to make a mini zine, but in it actually shows a map of the languages of the land. And there are 8 languages here in the Bay Area, just 8. In California, there are in excess of 200. Imagine that, 200 language dialects in California alone. California was the most linguistically dense territory this side of the Northern Hemisphere. Beyond Papua New Guinea, large language groups, because California sustained those communities. We hear about stories about Indigenous peoples having wars and fighting. Fighting for what? Resources? If there's 200 languages, 200 societies, 200 governing factions, ways communities always have lived on their lands, there's a lot of resources. We were sustaining ourselves. And when outsiders came in, I'll call them colonizers because the Spaniards, well, they kind of try to colonize the area. When they came in, they called us stupid. Why did they call us stupid? Because when they came here, we offered them gifts. Our communities offered gifts when these strangers came. What kind of world do you have to live in? Do you think about living in that if the first thing that you think of when strangers come in is not protect my resources and guard it like it's protective, like these objects are really mine, but oh, these are different people. These gifts. Spaniards called that stupid. I would rather be stupid, because that means that I am sharing my resources, that my ancestors shared, and we honor these sacred living systems because these green relatives, these winged relatives, the plants and the animals, my teachers and my elders have always taught me they are the first people. They came here before us. So the plants and the animals are part of our community. So when we make decisions about taking care of our community, we have to be inclusive. We have to care about the water. We have to care about the plants. We have to care about the animals. Not just be very selfish and self-centered about my car, my property, me, my human family. it's good to care about your human family. Let's care about our relatives too. And so that's what I offer, is stories about Indigenous teachings, ways that some of these organizations can be inclusive, and educational resources to catch everybody up, because you have to honor the past to shape the future. If we don't know about what happened here, how can we make good decisions going forward? If we don't know what was right, like we learn, right? We learn on our journey. We learn that, oh, I'm not going to walk forward because this is in the way. I now have learned, don't step there. Keep going. So the same way as when we learn, we share. And so I want to encourage people to learn about the history of these spaces and places that we travel in. Think about the relatives and the plants and the animals and their stories. Because even if you're a vegetarian or a vegan or an omnivore, I'm an omnivore, you have to take a life to sustain your own. Are we considering how we impact that living system? Because we can't just avoid everything. Because guess what? I'm going to go hungry. I'm going to be like, I don't want to step on the bugs. I don't want to touch the plants. I'm not going to do it. No. We will always impact the world that we're in. How are we doing so? By paying attention. Are we being accountable? Are we being reciprocal? Are we being humble? Because we have to live in the world with everything else, but everything has a purpose. I will consume plants, I will consume animals, and when I pass on, I hope that my body can help the soil. I hope that the next generation will get nutrients from what I give back. I'm not a fan of embalming. That's foolish. Let us give back. And so when we're living, how do we give back? We connect with community. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you for acknowledging Indigenous protocol. And I hope that these stories and these communities that you're encountering, hopefully they have a lasting impact. If anything, you had a great day this weekend. Or you hung out with me and said, oh my gosh, I didn't know this my entire life. That's really, really cool. Or you check out that amazing book. I really recommend you check out that author's book, because I can't remember the full title. It's like The Bells of the Mission, or The Mission Bells, which is...
Mission Bells Ring.
Thank you. See, I am dyslexic. I identify as neurodivergent, so I stumble with words. So thank you for those who pay attention stronger than me. So thank you, everyone. I'm here to share stories and engage, so I'm grateful that you are here. So may you have a beautiful day and hang out with me, or make some mini zines, or enjoy. Is there any extra layers that we want to talk about this gathering? This is the first of its kind, right? Can I hear a good oh for the organizers? Oh! This is really beautiful. I did not know this was, well, I did know, but I did not know this was happening. So tell your friends, tell your family, encourage it to happen again. Bigger, better, more beings, more communities, and it's going to be beautiful, right?